I want to talk to you about things you need to include this year in a content brief, okay? And the thing is that whether you are speaking about content marketing or content optimization, you got to have a content brief. So if you want to have a kick-ass content brief this year, I want you to really think about these considerations here. Basically, when it comes to content briefs, you really have, first of all, let me explain what a content brief is. A content brief is actually a recipe of recommendations for a creator to help them produce relevant and engaging content. So if you have freelancers or you have a team of content creators, you want to give them some kind of instructions, okay? Now, a content brief might be known as a content outline or content guideline. So when you hear the terms guideline, brief, or outline, they are pretty similar, okay? And one thing I want to say here is that if you need a content brief, you got to really ask yourself, why should I need such a document in the first place? Well, a content brief can really help you if you are stuck in a never-ending rewrite and feedback loop with writers, for instance, or when you scale content, you slack on quality and vice versa, and you feel like you can't trust anyone to create excellent content but yourself. Okay, now here is what you want to do. I want to give you a few focus points this year. Make sure your content brief has a clear goal. Goal clarity is really quite essential. If you want to really make sure people understand where you're coming from, you want to really have a clear idea. So when I speak about having a clear goal, it's not just about having like being brief, okay? But you want to make sure that you are explaining to content writers or to your writers in general, content creators, what you really want. Let me give you some goal examples. To assert the brand as an authority on a subject matter, measured through links acquired. To entice readers to give their contact information in return for exclusive content, measured by MQL signups. To persuade readers to test drive a product, measured by free trial count. And to educate and engage readers in the awareness stage, measured through time on page. Okay. Now that's the first thing. Second thing you want to do is you want to define the target audience. So your writer also needs to know who they are writing for. Here is an example of some intel. It would be good to share with them. What's the audience role? In other words, are they startup founders, for instance? What's their ultimate goal? For instance, to double down on content marketing as part of a growth strategy. And also, what problems do they need to solve? For example, how to bootstrap content marketing and build time-saving processes. So you got to have a clear idea. So if you have already created personas, then share those documents to save reinventing the wheel. Okay. If you want to create a kick-ass content brief, you want to outline your focus keyword and subtopics. Okay. Creating search-ready content is not so much a nice to have as a prerequisite. But for your writer to make your content a search success, they need to know how to theme it, okay? So outlining the main topic and focus keyword of the content is actually crucial here. So you got to have a primary keyword and a secondary set of keywords, okay? Now, it's easy to get lost down the research rabbit hole, finding intent-appropriate keyword ideas to actually feature in your brief. So to avoid actually over-investigating, you want to use an SEO tool to kind of help you out, okay? And you are able to get a data-backed brief around your focused keyword, complete with a few choice value and CPC informed keyword ideas, okay? And all you have to do is to generate keyword ideas in the content ideas generator. So that's really important to think about. Now here I'm showing you the Buzz Sumo sort of keyword tool. So you have a clear idea, but this is an example though. You have KW Finder, you have RFs, you have a lot of other players. So, but Buzz Sumo is just a one tool. Next thing you want to do is you want to give your writer some data-backed content. So you want your writer to learn from the very best. So normally that means referring them to articles ranking on page 1 of the SERPs. But don't forget that engagement comes in many forms. Make sure you do not neglect content that drives significant shares and links in your brief, especially if this matches your content goal. So giving your freelancer access to content that drives engagement in all areas makes for a great swap file of inspiration. Okay, and from this, your writer can analyze what success looks like in content types, in blog structure, for instance, subheadings and subtopic choice. When it comes to SEO, also search intent optimization, but also headline composition. This is really important. So if you're thinking about things to include in a Kickass content brief, you want to include questions that the content needs to answer. Okay, your audience is looking for answers. Your audience has pain points, and your job is to actually bring solutions to those pain points. There is no better way to brief in your writer than to give them real life reader questions. This will help them match the intent of the reader and pick up a bunch of long tail traffic. Okay, you can lift these questions straight from Google's People Also Ask uh, carousel. Okay, or you can download actually you can download stuff from an appropriate tool, an appropriate SEO tool, by the way. Next, you want to state your structure and subheading demands. So you want to understand how readers actually skim through article subheadings. Okay, now readers actually skim through article subheadings and intro sentences to check whether they are worth their time. So you subheadings and structure are crucial to engagement. So you want to reinforce this in your brief and make sure to ask for actionable, memorable, and search optimized subheadings. Along with a headline, subheadings are basically a sales pitch for your content. You want to support the skim with engaging, specific, and search optimized TLDR subheadings. And so an example structure outline to include in your content brief, you have intro. Keep your intro short, no more than 2 sentences. Table of content include for scannability. You want to have subheadings, so include throughout for scannability, optimize for search engines, and give the gold upfront by making them specific, actionable, and unique. You also want to have a CTAs, so include up to 3 throughout. Think about internal and external links, so feature a 3 to 5 throughout. Sentence and paragraph structure, write in sentence paragraphs and keep each one to the point. And also, in terms of conclusion, actually, you want to recap bullet points and write summary statements, no more than 2 sentences. So this is actually the kind of brief you want to send your writers, especially when it comes to stating their structure and subheading sort of protocols. When it comes to things to include in a Kickass content brief, I want to really request relevant internal and external links. So more and more studies are springing up around the importance of internal linking for driving traffic. So your writers need to connect the content they create to your relevant existing blogs to boost your site's overall search visibility. But since they don't know your content library like you do, you have to give them a helping hand. So if you intend for this new piece of content to belong to a specific blog category, or let's say a topic cluster, then include a link in your brief to the pillar or category page. That way you are able to get things done, let's say better, okay? This way your writer can track down relevant internal links apps, let's say independently. You can also include a linked example of a Google search operator in your brief and encourage your writer to search your sites for related content to reference, okay? Next, you want to remember to request CTAs in your content brief. So calls to action are critical, okay? So content CTAs, more often than not, are tied directly to your content goal. So to save yourself retroactively adding them in, you want to ask the writer to do so in your brief, okay? And this way, your writer can work in natural, can actually incorporate those CTAs as natural segues and make a more compelling case for your audience to actually take said action. And what I want to say here is that I want to quickly go back to the internal and external linking. Okay, now for external links, you want to ask your writers to reference content they have already been using for inspiration, especially if that content actually is driving big links, shares, and traffic. So that this is kind of cool. If you're looking for things to include in the Kickass content brief this year, you want to leave room for meta titles, descriptions, and alt text. So save some space in your content brief to allow your writer to craft an optimized page title and meta description. And to make life easier, provide guidance on the word and character limits. You should also instruct your writer to provide alt text along with any images, so that this will be very helpful for you. You may even want to supply some best practice advice on writing search and people friendly image descriptions in your resource pack. So that's really fantastic. Next, you want to set the right word count. This is so critical because when it comes to having the right content brief, word count is kind of quintessential, especially if you are addressing a target audience that's actually pretty busy. Okay, folks are busy and they just want to get the answer straight to the point. So it's important. So you want to give actually a word count guide based on top tier skyscraper content. What does that mean? Basically, you are able to get to get the optimum length for your content based on your target audience, but also based on trends in the industry. Okay, and so you want to actually be able to drive shares, comments, likes, pins, and upvotes. So you want to be able to have the right content, because otherwise, when you have content that's too long, nobody's going to rate it. I mean, all you need to do is to specify what the writer needs to focus on, and voila. Okay. One thing I want to say here is that when it comes to having things to include in a kick-ass content brief, you have to really understand that the document is not a final document. It's not a static document. It's a living document. It's a dynamic document that you might actually change based on your needs and based on also the feedback you receive from the writer, because the writer actually is in this with you, and he or she might provide feedback based on let's say the investigation that she or he has done. If you want to look for things to include in an excellent content brief, you want to give intel on format and distribution. So why? Because different topics and audiences demand different content types. And it's one of those things where when you think about different content types, you are speaking about the geography, you are speaking about demographics, and you are speaking about actually chronology, the time of the year. Okay. Now make sure you feature only the most engaging and highest ranking formats in your brief. And so what you want to do is you want to dive into the SERP to observe the top headline formations and content types, and then feed that knowledge back to writers into the brief. So now one thing I want to say here is that basically if you are, let's say, briefing a freelancer, you can actually hand over this information and let them make the call, but you have to give them some kind of foundation. This is critical. And you want to also identify the content types creating the most social buzz to help speed this part of the process. Then the method of distribution is another important factor to include in your content brief. A writer might tweak their tone of voice for audiences across different platforms. So in your brief, make sure you highlight the most engaging platform for your focus topic. Next, you want to tell your writer which products and features to push. Okay. Now, if a primary or secondary goal of your content is to showcase a specific product or feature, don't expect your writer to work that out all by themselves. Tell them which tool is worthy of a mention and show them how to use it. Okay. So I get it. It's kind of tricky to strike the right balance, but there is a fine line between wanting to provide enough information upfront so that your writer aces it off the bat, and spending so long explaining that may as well have written the piece yourself. Okay. In this instance, you can do one of three things. You want to hire writers who know your products. You want to create shareable product training resources, and you also want to accept that you'll have to dedicate time to edit it in product mentions. So when I speak about hiring writers who know your products. If you know a lot of your content is going to be product centered, then make sure you work with writers who really get what you do. Consider commissioning mega fans and customers with great product knowledge to guest post. And in terms of sharing product training resources, this is a heavy initial lift, but once created, these guides or videos can be useful to multiple people, from freelancers to sales, CRM, and new starters. And accept that you have to dedicate time to editing and product mentions. This is actually the least ideal option. A good piece of content will actually weave into the most tantalizing features of a product and make the reader want to use them without them ever noticing. On the flip side, if you are shoehorning, let's say in product mentions, they can tend to feel out of place or inauthentic. But it's something you can do if you have the right strategy in place anyway. So that's really important to think about that way. If you're looking for the things to include in an excellent content brief this year, you want to give your writer the resources to succeed, okay? While it might seem like a big ask, adding a resource pack to your content brief will save you a huge amount of time in the long run. So having actually this instantly accessible information for your writers is one way to ensure that you're not going back and forth sharing info via email or working through copious rounds of revisions. So the more information you provide upfront, the more seamless the process, the more engaging the content. So let me give you a few things your resource pack could include. So tone of voice and editorial guidelines, grammar and style guidelines, SEO guidelines, for instance, primary data and statistics. So if you have an existing blog, curating this, share it. Case studies and use cases, product feature training materials, rating level or expertise level information, general do's and don'ts, personas and audience information, brand's point of view on key topics, research and opinion sources, subject matter expert insights, screenshots, annotation and illustration instructions, award information, and also a menu of your blog components. So this is really important, especially in the long run. So let me give you some content brief must have here. So you really want to set a clear goal and audience. You want to search, you want to automate research of keywords, subtopics, and questions. You want to generate examples of successful content for your writers to inspire them to create content that actually stands out in all areas, like when it comes to links, shares, and rankings. You want to outline your preferred structure, and don't forget to reinforce the importance of subheadings. You want to ask for internal and external links, but offer support. You want to ask for metadata, but give advice on best practice. Or you can even talk about how a writer should supply this information. You want to auto brief optimum word counts, content types, and preferred networks based on skyscraper content. And you want to be clear about which product to include. So this is important to think about this for like from the get-go. Really, that's the thing to really keep in mind. And also, one thing I want to say here is that basically creating great content takes a lot of practice and preparation. That's for sure. Okay, doesn't happen overnight. That's why you need a content brief, which is a recipe that helps you produce engaging content. So in conclusion to this conversation, I give you the considerations, the focus points, and now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.